Hey guys, it's me Seren, back with another video. Today is going to be my end of year 2020 and welcome 2021 video. As you guys know, I like to do one of these videos every year, just sort of wrapping up my feelings about the previous year and outlining some of my themes and goals, I guess, for the following year. You guys know I don't really like to set goals and New Year's resolutions and stuff like that because I feel like it's really hard. Number one, those type of things are really hard to stick to. And number two, I feel like a lot of the times the sentiment behind these ideas almost comes from a place of like guilt and shame. Like, I fucked up last year. So now this year I'm gonna like get it right. I don't like to sort of come from that place and put that type of pressure on myself. But instead, I like to sort of set a theme for the new year coming up and operate kind of within that theme of what I want to accomplish. So last year, 2020, my theme was legacy. If you've missed any of my previous New Year's videos, I will post them in the description box. But as you guys know, I've been thinking a lot about legacy. I've been thinking a lot about heritage. I've been thinking a lot about culture, and especially, you know, as a Black American that is seeing, you know, so many of our Black American legends and icons, you know, passing away within the last, within the last 5 years. We lost Prince, we've lost, not within the last 5 years, but like we've lost Whitney Houston, we've lost Michael Jackson, in 2016 we lost Prince, last year in 2020 we lost Chadwick, we lost Natalie Desselle, we lost Kobe, we also lost John Witherspoon, Pops, we've lost John Singleton, director, and with every, figure, these are some ones that come to mind for me. Obviously, there have been more, Jeanette Dubois, and obviously I'm into pop culture, so my mind goes that way, but Katherine Johnson, previously Catherine Noble, who they did the Hidden Figures movie about, she passed away, but every time one of our figures passes away, it seems like there's always this conversation about like who, not who's gonna take their place, but like especially when Chadwick died, there was a lot of people talking about like, Chadwick was an up and coming, people were looking forward to seeing him become a legend. People were looking forward to him becoming like Chadwick was a legend, but people were looking forward to seeing him become almost like a Denzel Washington type of figure, like an older figure, a mentor, somebody that could like mentor the up and coming, young actors and actresses coming up. I might say actors repeatedly in this video. Just know that if I say actors, I mean actors and actresses, not strictly men. But like somebody that's gonna like mentor the young up and coming actors and actresses that are coming up. A lot of people were saying like it seemed like Chadwick was sort of like positioning himself in that way, and then he unexpectedly passed away. And so now there's a lot of people saying like, well, who is gonna be the next Denzel? Who is gonna be the next Angela Bassett? Who is gonna be the next John Singleton? Who is gonna be the next Katherine Johnson or Jeanette Dubois? Or who are the people that are gonna sort of step into some of these roles? And then even our civil rights icons, our authors, last year in 2019, so year before last now, Toni Morrison passed away, which you guys know just like crushed me. And it's even harder when I'm looking at the books that get recommended to me, which we've talked about. The books that get recommended to me as like Black stories and shit, but like half of them are not from Black Americans. They're not something I can relate to the same way that I related to Toni Morrison. And so I've still been thinking so much about legacy, about heritage, about what will be left behind, about what are we going to be doing moving forward. And after the emotional roller coaster of 2020, one of my theme that I kind of settled on for 2021 that I really started enacting last year was pivot. I feel like everybody knows this word now, pivot, because all we've been hearing is like pivot to digital, pivot to remote, pivot to this, pivot to that. So I have been thinking a lot about the idea and the concept of pivot, as well as adaptability. And I'm going to read you guys my Instagram end of year post. Roller coaster feels like an understatement to describe this year. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives to a highly contagious illness, with Black American communities being hit the hardest. Millions found themselves on lockdown, while millions more found themselves labeled essential workers, forced to put their lives at risk during a public health crisis. There's been no real infrastructure or real aid provided by the government. A highly volatile presidential election occurred, We lost many cherished and beloved figures in the Black American community, and the second wave of the Black Lives Matter movement caused us to take to the streets to protest Black civilians murdered by the state. Yet among all this, there was joy, there was enlightenment, there was a sense of the wool finally being pulled back, the veil lifted, the man behind the curtain revealed for many who were unable to see before. The ability to pivot and adapt seems to have become the name of the game. Who better equipped with this ability than Black Americans? Some yearn for a return to normalcy. I can't help but to hope that we all build on this quickening instead, and that we rise up and eat the rich. That's what I put in little parentheses. But that's really how I feel about 2021. That's really how that's what I feel like Black Americans, number one, I feel like we really need to sort of build and push on a lot of the ideologies that people never would have considered before, but all of a sudden now seem possible, like reparations. Like they can clearly pull like trillions of dollars like out of thin air and just like make checks magically appear in people's bank accounts. Like there's really no, and this was like the main reason why people felt like previously, this was like one of the main reasons why people were like, reparations isn't possible. Like, where are they going to get the money from? And, like, how are they going to get it to people? Like, well, obviously they can figure it out, you know? Like, just like how they figured out getting out a little bit of something. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough by far. But how they figured out to get a little bit of something out to, like, the general American public, they can figure out a way to fucking enact reparations, you know? And even people seeing now that type of thing, like the stimulus checks, is possible. I've seen people talking about, like, reparations in a much more, you know, different way. People are talking very seriously about, like, cancel rent. Like, we need a rent strike. People are very seriously all of a sudden realizing that, like, the system of capitalism is, like, racist and it's also unsustainable. They're seeing, like, why did Jeff Bezos get even richer into, like, super ultimate billionaire fucking status while people are going hungry, getting evicted, getting put out on the streets. People finally started waking up to a lot of the nature of what's going on with our politics. You know, last year was like a really weird year for me because it felt like I've been on YouTube since 2014. August of this year makes 7 years, you know, since the first Black Lives Matter wave, since Mike Brown, may he rest in peace and power, was murdered in August of 2014 in Ferguson. And so, you know, we're going on 7 years of that movement this year. But I remember, like, when I first got on YouTube and when I first started making videos, and even before that, when I was just, like, talking to people about how I felt, people was acting like I was tripping, I was bugging out, I wasn't making no sense. And, like, now all of a sudden to, like, see people that I know, you know, people that I know in real life, friends and family members that all of a sudden now they like, they out here marching and talk about cancel rent like they are comrades, you know? So obviously there was a lot of, like, performative stuff that ended up happening, which I did do a couple of videos about. I'll include links to those videos in the description box as well. So I'm not really talking about, like, the performative nature and aspect of it, which did add a weird quality to the whole thing and I wasn't the only one that said this. A lot of Black-owned business owners said this as well. Nubian Hueman, who I did an episode of the Black Americans Spotlight with, you know, her end of the year email said, like, it was a really weird year, you know, like, we had to shut down our brick and mortar store, you know, several of our team members had to leave, you know, they left the area, or, you know, they got sick, or, you know, we were scared of getting sick, they got vandalized, you know, all types of things. She was like, our, you know, bank account got into the negative at one point. But then she was like, just for us to kind of, like, bounce back with, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants and funding and donations. And, you know, like, it's really a roller coaster, like, really high highs and, like, really some really low lows. And for myself, there was a feeling of that as well, of, like, you know, you've been doing work and putting in work for all these years and, like, trying to get people to see the light. And, like, now motherfuckers is finally seeing the light, but you're not sure who really sees the light. You're not sure who's just pretending to see the light, who's just, like, acting like they see the light for right now, but for the people that, like, really did see it and that are, like, really trying to, like, learn and, like, really trying to move forward and, like, again, I feel like the name of the game is going to be pivoting and adaptability and figuring out, you know, how do we move forward and build off of what should at least be, like, the beginning of, I think, a shift in collective consciousness and public opinion. At the same time, I do feel like social media, people being in the house, people, you know, being plugged into the matrix even more is also having an impact, which is why, as you guys heard me say in my last Sunday live, that I'm really going to fall back on reading certain things, rumors, gossip, because it just seems like we're also rapidly approaching a point. I'm not sure what that point is. I'm not sure what that point is going to be. I'm not sure if that point is going to be, peak fake news and we just like fall off a cliff where as a society people just can't tell the truth from falsehoods anymore. We might already be there. We might already have passed that point, but I don't think we are. Or, I don't know if we're getting to the peak of people really understanding that like we could seriously be heading towards like a civil war, or, like our society is fractured. Our, even outside of like mainstream American society, I feel like we're even getting to a point within like the Black diaspora with these like diaspora wars and stuff, of people like really starting to like get to that point of realizing like, oh, we're not all the same. Like, yeah, we're all Black, but like we're not all the same. We don't all have the same ideologies. We don't all want the same things. We're not all working to end, the system of racism, white supremacy, capitalism, and colonization. It's some people, Black people, that are perfectly fine with the way that things are going. And so I just feel like we're moving unavoidably towards something. And as we, in 2020, I feel like, again, like really pulled the veil back for a lot of people. And so I think a lot of people are going to have to decide for themselves, like, what are they moving towards? What are they working towards? And what do they want to see in terms of 2021, in terms of culture, in terms of life, in terms of reality. And yet again, for me, I just keep finding myself settling on these notions of pivot and adaptability. Some other things, as you guys know, I'm working on a screenplay. Some of you may have seen that, well, I'm a writer. A lot of you guys know this. Like, I'm a writer. Like, at my core, that's what I do. Like, I'm a writer. I write fiction. I write nonfiction. I write essays. I write short stories. I've been working on a novel for the last few years, and I actually won a prize, Meet Me at 19th Street Literary Prize, where the first chapter of my novel was actually published online in their literary journal, which I'll include a link in the description box for those of you that want to read that. And for me, that felt really good. And the contest was like young adult novels that deal with race, which mine is a speculative fiction novel that deals with race. But it felt really good to like talk about race in terms of metaphors. Like, it felt really good to like talk about race in terms of this like other creative outlet, in terms of my novel. It feels my screenplay as well deals with race. It deals with gender. It deals with being a Black woman. It deals with being a Black American woman. It deals with so many things, and it felt really good to work on my screenplay and have some infrastructure to support me while I did that last year. As a lot of you guys also know, I was able to show my first video installation last year, which just still, even to this moment, feels surreal. It feels like it didn't really happen. And I showed 5 Years Since Ferguson documentary, which is uploaded here on YouTube. I'll include a link. And I also did Black Americans Extras in Detroit, because I wanted to sort of show flip side of, the protest element and also the cultural quirks, the dance, the joy. Black joy is revolutionary. Black love is revolutionary. And I just feel like we're really, rapidly approaching a point where like the noise and the static and the nonsense and the everything is going to become really overwhelming. And people have to decide for themselves, like, what type of person are they going to be? What are they going to believe and not believe? How are they going to, push forward past, a year 2020 where we saw, even if only momentarily, the veil get pulled back behind the way that things operate, not only in our country, but also in the world, on a global scale. And as I always say, you guys know, American, speaking from my American perspective. And so I just feel like, again, pivot and adaptability. No one can do that like Black Americans. Every single thing we've had has been taken away from us, and we've created something new. We've created something better. We've continued to thrive, and be innovative in the shit that they took away from us. And I just feel like we all need to really be thinking about like what, again, what are we heading towards? Because it feels like we're heading towards some type of a precipice. And what are we heading towards? And who are you going to be? What's going to be important to you? Again, in terms of our culture, our heritage, and even but also our individual lives. Who are we going to be? So that's my 2021 thoughts. Like I said, 2020 was really just an emotional roller coaster full of highs and lows, you know, for me as well as for everyone else. I was in lockdown. While I was in lockdown, I decided to get serious about this screenplay. I started applying for some things. You know, I got accepted to something. I never would have thought that would have happened in my life. I've been trying to get into, you know, more video art and like art installations and video content in that type of manner. And I ended up getting, you know, a residency where I was a remote artist in residence, and I was able to give, you know, a 24-hour installation on a loop in like an actual major gallery in Los Angeles where people could like see my work, my protest work, as well as, you know, my anthropology, Black Americans, culture stuff. I never would have thought that would have happened, but like those things became possible because I was in lockdown, you know? I don't like this whole like, yo, look on the bright side and you gotta like grind and hustle. If you wasn't grinding and hustling with all your spare time, you wasn't doing shit. I'm not trying to tell people that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying like there was a lot of highs and there was also a lot of lows. But I was, you know, really able. And for anyone that wasn't able, you know, that's fine too. Because like we were in a pandemic and we still are in a pandemic. Everyone should be taking care of themselves first and foremost to the best of your abilities. You know, your emotional well-being, your physical health, to the best of your abilities. You know, if 2021 to you, if pivot and adaptability, that might mean like you're pivoting away from this grind culture, hustle culture, and you're pivoting to, I'm just going to take care of myself because like obviously shit can go left at any moment and, you know, life could be cut short at any moment. We could all be locked in the house at any moment. I'm going to do what I want for me. Like, I just feel like we need to really take the actions of 2020 and think about, you know, how are we going to pivot and adapt and what's going to be best for us moving forward. So 2021 video, pivot and adaptability. Those are some of my themes for this year, my focus words. You know, that's what I'm going to be thinking about. So let me know what you guys are thinking for 2021 in the comments. And hopefully everyone had a great holiday season. Hopefully everybody's had a great January thus far. Hopefully everyone had a great new year. And here we go, 2021. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.